It is very important to me to be flexible because of this space and how new it is, and you just never know what's around the corner in this NFT world because of how the technology is growing and changing.
Hello everyone, GM. Welcome to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. I'm Carly Riley, and today on the show I have Carlini, better known as Carlini8 online. Carlini is the founder of Purrnelope's Country Club, the NFT project brand, which of course is a big part of what we talk about today on this episode. But I'll just say this, Carlini has been in this space since very early days. He was very involved during CryptoKitty era. He co-founded NFTBoxes with Pranksy. Like, he's in. And we talked for 2 hours. So to try and even summarize or tease what we get into in here, I would just do it inadequately. What I'll say is Carlini is a fountain of information. He's funny. He has strong feelings and opinions on things. For example, he thinks Bored Ape Yacht Club messed up the launch of Ape Token. And you can hear all about that, along with tons of other nuggets just about how the NFT space runs, should run, isn't running. He's a joy to talk to, a joy to listen to, and I think y'all are going to enjoy this conversation. So I'm going to hand it over to our sponsors to hear a word from them. Without them, this show, of course, would not be possible. And then you're going to get into my conversation with James Carlini.
Unstoppable Domains is the #1 provider of NFT domains. With domains ending in .crypto, .x, or .nft, Unstoppable Domains lets you replace your long, complex wallet address with a human-readable address. Using Unstoppable, you can verify the ownership over your NFTs, log into Web3 apps, and join tens of thousands of people using them as their Twitter usernames. With Unstoppable Domains, you can have all of your crypto addresses registered to one single domain. So it doesn't matter where crypto payments are coming from or where they're going. By registering all of your crypto addresses to your Unstoppable domain, all of that is taken care of in the back end. Better yet, with Unstoppable Domains, you don't have to worry about gas costs or renewal fees because you own it. Buy your domain and you can show it off as your new Twitter username. So you can get your name for as low as $5 at unstoppabledomains.com. Polygon is Ethereum's largest and most vibrant scaling solution to date. With millions of monthly users and all of the biggest DeFi apps, the Polygon ecosystem has turned into a blossoming metropolis of DeFi activity. Transactions on Polygon are quick and cheap, allowing users the freedom to achieve their DeFi goals, all while being economically anchored to Ethereum. But Polygon isn't just the proof-of-stake sidechain. The Polygon team is building a suite of scaling solutions, including Polygon Hermes, Maiden, Nightfall, and Zero, all with different design choices in order to be optimized for all possible crypto use cases. If you're a developer who wants to build on the Polygon ecosystem, go to the link in the show notes to check out their fantastic documentation. And if you're a user who just wants to experience fast and cheap DeFi, you can bridge over your ETH or other tokens and start playing around with any of the thousands of applications that are available on Polygon.
Hello, everyone. GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. I'm Carly Riley, and today on the show I have Carlini8, as he's better known online, but Carlini. We're gonna have fun with that in some way here, Carlini. I'm sure of it. Carlini is a super NFT OG. We will talk about his background here in a bit, and he is the co-founder of Purrnelope's Country Club, which we will also be talking quite a bit about. I'm really excited to dive into what you've done with Purrnelope's. I think you've done a lot that's innovative. You've really been a model of, bringing a project like slow growth and also kind of bringing a project back after some price drops and all the rest of it. So really excited to dig into your story and how you do what you do.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's going to be great. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Excited to see where this goes because, we had a chat earlier just to see what's what, and just loads of things to talk about, really, isn't there?
Well, you got lots of feelings and opinions, so I feel like this could go a lot of different directions. We get you on the right kind of a rant, and we're off in a totally new direction. That's the goal here, by the way. Dear. We're just gonna try and set off Carlini. Okay, I want to actually start with NFTBoxes. Folks may or may not know, you were partnered with Pranksy. You and Pranksy go way back. I think you were the one who actually initially got Pranksy into NFTs. Is that true?
Yep, back in December 2017 with CryptoKitties.
Wow.
So I knew him pre-NFTs.
Wow. Okay. And so you two sort of entered the NFT space in some ways together and launched NFTBoxes, which is a really cool program. My conception of it is it's essentially Birchbox or Barkbox or like one of those sorts of services, but digitally and for NFTs. Is that a fair description of NFTBoxes?
Yeah, so it was a curated art box of NFTs curated by Pranksy that would be sent out monthly. We wanted it to be subscription based, so it would just be like those products. But it was a bit trickier with NFTs at the time. I think it's been done since, and I think NFTBoxes this year is going to be a subscription service. But yeah, it ended up being buy a box and get the 10 curated pieces of art, roughly 10 each month inside it.
So you had to actually manually, up to this point, you've had to essentially manually buy the box each month, and then you could get the NFTs as opposed to being essentially auto-subscribed. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, so there'd be a monthly sale, except December, which was, if you had collected all of the others up to that point, December was a free airdrop to everyone. So kind of, you could say a subscription, but not really at that point, but will be this year.
Was the hold up to being able to make it a subscription or to making it a subscription out the gate connected to like technical capabilities and smart contracts, or
It was
something else?
It was tech plus meta. Like, just at the time, it was harder to get people to commit. When I was talking to people and doing some sort of investigation into what would be likely to sell and all of that, it was tricky to fit into the model as well, because each month the sale would happen and the funds would be automatically split between the company to then pay taxes and salary and things like that, and then between the artists as well. There'd be a pre-arranged percentage that they would get, because obviously we couldn't be sure we would sell out. So it would say, this is the most amount, this is completely maxed mint, this is the price, and you'd get this percent. And they'll either agree to it or not. And obviously if they did, they're in the box, and we click the button and the ETH would automatically go to them. So that bit did work, and a subscription service could kind of be based around that, but it was just tricky from a more prolonged approach. How does that ETH then get split to the next artist and the next artist? So the sales were just easier at the time.
So the sale prices for these boxes, it sounds like fluctuated a little bit, or you're saying it wasn't even that, it was just like what percentage they would get.
They had to, yes.
Like it was sort of hard coded each time, and so they had to fluctuate based on the artists.
No, the artists were fixed. The issue was gas. So we started kind of at the beginning of the NFT bull run, I guess. I'd say it really started the end of 2020, but at the start of 2021, January, that was our first sale. You know, we'd planned, I think, for 50. We'd be sending out a 50 guai, and then it just sat over 100 for so long in February, I think it was, and we just had to adapt our prices, because otherwise we were sending out, I think at one point there was 700 boxes, and it might have been 11 items in that box, so we were sending out 7,700 NFTs and minting them, which is pretty much the whole gas cost of a profile picture project now, which we had to send out, and that had to be baked into the price that we put the boxes at. So as that went up, we had to adjust, and it was pretty stressful, to be honest, because you can never really plan ETH's gas at all. And we were trying to have this period where there would be like a fun sort of reveal, and we hadn't fully, because the project was quick to get going. It was only December when we really were like, right, this is happening, and the end of January was the first sale. And in my head, lots of things were happening that we just didn't have time to plan. So there were going to be like artist spotlights articles or maybe a Spaces. Spaces wasn't a thing at the time. I think it was going to be a Discord chat in the NFTBoxes chat about the artist that was coming in, and they'd give you info, and then maybe at that point they'd reveal their piece. So there'd be like this fun week or two where all this information would be coming in, and that gave the possibility of gas to fly. And around the time it did, obviously, because all of those high gas times that we saw last year, if it was towards the end of the month, Pranksy was trying to send a box out at one of those months, and it just got tricky.
So it's worth noting that you're not formally working with NFTBoxes anymore. You're really focusing on Purrnelope's Country Club, which of course we're going to talk all about. So I say that to say, I don't know if you can answer this question, but what has shifted? I mean, gas has been lower and been a little bit stabler, but I don't know that anybody feels like they want to count on that in a business decision. What changes have been made that will allow the subscription model to potentially work today?
Well, I think just from the space perspective, people do think about it a little differently now. We're not in a time period that I call max mint. Like if there were no whitelists sort of in this period of time where I was working at NFTBoxes, and if you just minted anything, you profited, basically. So people were just minting the max that they could, and they were trying to send in multiple transactions, and that's what was sending the gas sky high for short periods of time. But the culture just wasn't around. There were people that appreciated the art. There were a lot of people, but that percentage of people within the community back then was quite low. So people expected gamification from NFTBoxes and sort of incentives to hold the art. And that's a part where myself and Pranksy kind of had a bit of a disagreement, because I wanted to, my role in the company was the community and kind of getting the business to work. So it's like getting the website, getting the devs and organizing that. And Pranksy's side was the artists, organizing them and promotion. So when I'm talking to the community every day and Pranksy's talking to the artists every day, I'm coming from, right, so the community want this, and Pranksy's saying, but it's the art that matters. We're not appreciating it as art. And we just had a bit of a disagreement. We both saw each other's side, but I wanted to deliver for the community, he wanted to deliver for the artist. He didn't want the artist to see their work gamified after the point, which I completely understand. And that just sort of led to us being like, look, we have different views on how this works. We're 50-50. And I just said, look, do you want to buy my shares? So I do no longer work there. I moved on to Purrnelope's, but I feel the views of the people have changed, sort of herd views. Like more people do appreciate the art as art, and a higher percentage, because obviously the space is much bigger than when I was working there, but it is a higher percentage that really do truly appreciate art for art in the NFT space. I'm not saying it's a huge amount, so people are gonna scoff at me and be like, nah, everyone's here for profit. Most are. I agree, most people are here for profit, but the people who truly are here for the art has grown, and it is growing, and this is their segment, and that is what NFTBoxes is for. And because there's more of these people, it makes a subscription service more viable. So during sort of the time of NFTBoxes, the Red Lion Eye Gazette has a subscription service, and it's worked for quite a long time at this point. So I don't fully know. I am on good terms with Pranksy. I'm not, it's not like, oh, we broke up and then we never spoke again. We still speak, pretty much every day. So, but I just don't know. I'm not like, hey, tell me the intricate details of the contract. So I don't know if it's based on the Gazette or not, but I do know it's now possible, and I have been told it's going to be done this year.
Part of my fascination with it and the reason I'm pushing on it is because I really am curious in the ways that the crypto world can start to more closely mirror what we do in our everyday lives, right? And their escrow payments, or things like this, like subscription models, because I think we've had very just primitive forms of payment up to this point. It's transactions. I mean, in some ways it's more advanced because you can do micropayments and all these things, of course. But I think that it's going to be fascinating to see how these models start to evolve, and I'm excited by that.
For escrow, we have just seen the crypto Twitter account Kobe, Crypto Kobe. He just took a 22 million USDT, I think it was, maybe USDC bet that he's the escrow of between two different people. I don't know quite how. I don't think that's in any way trustless. I think they're basically trusting this huge account that everyone trusts he's not going to rug because of how rich he is, basically.
Yes, and has a high profile, so high reputational damage to for little benefit, it would seem. Yeah. Well, and I think about the metaverse, thinking about being able to rent things out, like again mirroring the economic system we have here as fully, and even coming up with more advanced things than we can do in the IRL world, call it. It's just a really interesting area of exploration, in my opinion, as we continue to see the space evolve. I want to jump to Purrnelope's, of course. So this is what you have been really focused on since leaving NFTBoxes. What was the initial inspiration, goal, premise, let's say, for Purrnelope's? Tell folks a little bit about it.
Well, it's hard to say without the corny meme, because it was community. I've just said I was working on NFTBoxes, and my pull was the community and Pranksy's was the artists, and that was our disagreement, effectively. So when I wanted to do more for the community, when I then started something new, I then was able to focus on the community. And I'm not just talking the talk, because we have at this point walked the walk. We had an original sale of 800 Ethereum. 200 of that was sent into a community wallet for the community to decide how to spend. At the time, the most anyone had done that was 20 Ethereum. And when we'd planned it, no one had done it, to my knowledge. So that was a bit annoying, because I thought we were going to be the first, and it was... Luckily, it was like 5 ETH, 10 ETH, and 20 ETH were the free at the time. So we really blew that out the water. And then we had the creation of the Kitty Vault, which is a community-owned wallet, which a huge amount of our sale went into. That can all be seen on chain as well. What really annoyed me at the time was NFT projects were just minting out and then splitting all the ETH up between the founders. That isn't how companies work, and NFT projects are effectively companies. You don't just go, oh, here's all your money, congrats, now go build it for the next 5 years, because that doesn't work. How are you going to fund anything within the company? How do you do anything for the community that isn't just you working on it, because you have been paid, but now you have to somehow work out putting money back in? That it's just a tax nightmare. I genuinely just think people had no real world experience of running a company or a business, or even little information on NFTs, really.
Can you orient us? When did you launch Purrnelope's Country Club?
So we effectively started working on it towards the end of March, early April. And at that point we were like, right, what do we do?
That's 2021.
2021, yes. Last year.
So March, April of last year. That's interesting to me, because one thing I want to ask you about is it does feel like there was a lot of inspiration taken from Bored Apes, which came after that. So
We
I don't know if you're going to
at
get us
that
there,
point we were, what do we do? So I had the community manager from NFTBoxes who I'd hired part-time to basically help me out to do the community role. And he wanted to be full-time. COVID was, still pretty rampant, and the job security aspect was really like sort of playing on his mind. It's like, right, I've got this job, I really enjoy it, but it's month to month, it's part-time, it's not a proper job, I'm not getting a pension, I don't have holiday, all of that sort of stuff. And my goal was to bring in someone else that I'd sourced who had done that sort of work, sorting all that sort of stuff out for 9.5 years at a local college. So I'd pulled him out of this job just before he got to the 10-year mark. And then I was like, oh, right, guys, we can't do this at NFTBoxes. Don't worry. I know I've made you both quit your jobs. We're going to do something. I was financially fine. I was personally set to my own level. So I've been in the sort of FIRE space, financial independence, retire early, for maybe 5-6 years. It's really interested me from my old jobs and even before that. So I always had this number that I was targeting, and I'd hit that, and I kind of, like, relief had gone over me, and I was happy and I was at peace. But I still had the building bug from NFTBoxes. I really enjoyed it. I didn't like how it had ended, and I'd sold my share of the business, and I still wanted to build. And I had these two guys that I'd taken out of their jobs for NFTBoxes that I felt responsible for. So I said, look, I'll give you a guaranteed year's salary at what we were originally going to do, and we'll figure out something. So the end of March, early April is when we'd started trying to figure out what we were going to do. And we were originally going to try integrating NFTs with streamers, maybe Twitch and YouTube, as a sort of so the idea was along the lines of, on Twitch you get sub badges if you've been there 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and somehow make those NFTs and reward these people because they're effectively collectibles, but no one's getting these collectibles. You get sort of the status in a Twitch chat when you've got that 2-year or 3-year badge, but you don't have it anywhere else. So we were trying to figure this out, and then someone asked me, how do we make money from this? And I said, I don't know, I just want to do something cool in NFTs. And he said, well, I've just quit my job of great stability. Like, I'm thankful that we've got it for a year, but I don't want to have a career that dies in a year. And I was like, oh, good point.
Like, all right, valid.
Like, yeah, I am kind of playing with your life here a bit. So we then sat down again and we're like, right, the meta, right, at this point, it was after Bored Apes. And, sort of these profile picture projects were popping up. And we were like, right, we can do a profile picture project, but we can do it right. We can bring in those community vibes while showing others how to do it, which I am quite proud of, because the big community wallets did up in other projects after we did ours, and Kitty Vault type project. I hadn't seen another Kitty Vault that wasn't a formal, like, Flamingo DAO type of thing. And they then, just after we minted, they came quite common. And those sort of things, as long as they're done properly, when you get rugged, because, we all know that so many projects have, from last year, rugged. I did a tweet a couple of weeks ago where I literally went back to the day we minted, and I looked at one of these lists. I think it was Metaverse HQ's list that was, here are all the mints of the day. And I went through them. They were all dead, except I think there were 2 art block mints on that day, but you don't really count them in sort of this, because, that's an artist coming onto a platform to mint their work. Whereas all the other projects were practically dead. No tweets this year for the majority of them. Whereas if you had this Kitty Vault backing your NFT and it was done trustlessly, at least you always have that value there. So it did help, and all of the rugs with this Kitty Vault style method have always ended up with a community team taking over, because there is something of value to take over. There is something to command that is worth people's effort. Are you
thinking Pudgy Penguins feels like the obvious one that comes to mind of the community stepping in?
I honestly don't know what's happened there. I've asked like 3 times if they've been sold. I don't know.
I thought they were going to hand it over to the community, but you're right that I actually don't actually know if that's what they've done.
Yeah, there was. I remember like the big whale who 9x.
Yeah, 999.
He'd been offered to. He was going to take over it, and then they said, "Yeah, we'll sell it to you for 888 ETH." And he was like, "What on earth are you saying? I will save this project. Why am I going to buy this? You're failing."
Yeah. Let me be clear. You have nothing in the treasury, correct? And they were like, correct. And he was like, what?
That was wild.
What? So like, I'm doing you a favor. Let's be
because
clear.
They were another one who had just sent their Ethereum out to themselves, and I called them out on Twitter, and one of them had replied and said, "That is what our accountant advised." And I said, "There is absolutely no way that is what your accountant advised." Yeah. Never ever will they say that.
Do you think people are getting savvier? You're talking about back when you launched, it was really unusual for you to put as much money as you did into the community treasury. Folks could really just get away with, project founders could get away with just launching this thing, taking the money and running if they wanted. And then it's funny because I hear this other balance of the equation. I hear founders talking about the stress they feel like they're under to constantly produce more utility and more goods, and nothing's ever enough, which almost feels like the counter to that, which is people say almost like wanting you to put all of the money into just building the project back up. What do you think about that balance? And do you think people are getting savvier about not buying into projects that the founders are just going to run away with it, or no?
Kevin. Like,
so no, we have not gotten savvier.
But in a way,
it's funny.
We are getting savvy. Yeah. People are asking more questions, but FOMO still exists. People are remembering the good old days of Max Mint, and they still want that. So they're hoping, Pixelmon leads to that quick flip. People are savvier, yes, just to answer the question, but there are more people. So more people are chasing what they're hearing happened last year or even January and February, and they're just new people are coming in and pushing these projects that should never mint out. Like we had a small period of time, a couple of weeks, where for some reason everyone felt they could put their mint price over 1 ETH for absolutely no reason. Like they had no track record.
It was Dutch auctions. It was like Dutch auctions starting at 4. Like I feel like that dovetailed with each other.
Air quotes Dutch auction. This is going to set me off on a different rant that we hadn't talked about before. I don't
do it. That was the goal of this episode.
I don't consider it a Dutch auction if you are completely rugging your best community members. When you launch a Dutch auction, those that believe in you the most are the ones who mint early. They don't want to miss out. They believe in you. They're your best community members, and you're completely rugging them. Normal Dutch auctions, when they're done, generally in the real world, they're used for one item. So, it just goes down and eventually the price is found for this one item. In the crypto world, when it's used for tokens, the sale slowly goes down and you bid at certain prices, and then wherever it ends, everyone pays that same price. So if you paid 1 ETH at the start and it ends at 0.1, you get refunded 0.9. Because why should you pay more just because you believed in the project more? It's ridiculous and it needs to die, and we need to stop allowing that to be a thing, because it is so much better to refund everyone to the price point. A Dutch auction that goes down, I do not care if this Dutch auction starts at 1,000 Ethereum. In a way, that's better because you're truly finding a price point. If you have it, you're supposed to start them high, right? They're supposed to start high and come down, but the FOMO gets people in. If you know that you will be refunded, then the FOMO isn't really there. It's there in a different way. You're there securely in the fact, knowing that if everyone has bought at that price, it is truly its proper value. We saw with the 888 BT orbs done by, I completely forget their name, the ones who do Vox. Some people bought that at the ridiculous, it wasn't many, but there were people who bought that at like 8.8 or something like that. And it ended up sub 1. And these people weren't refunded. They even paused the mint during that mint. Yet the people who bought really high, I think they were like 26 or 27, they were the people who wanted BT's work the most. Yet they are punished for that. And it just does not seem in any way community oriented to me, and therefore it is in no way Web3.
You were making a very compelling case. Zeneca and I actually spoke about this, I guess, a couple weeks ago. I think now that I'm hearing you say this, based off of tweets you made in response to a project that was doing a Dutch auction. It was in response to Frenzies, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Did you comment on Frenzies?
I about 5 times. I was really trying to get through with that because I'd had enough. I've literally tweeted.
You'd seen your moment.
I've got tweets from Meebits Mint. I've that far back. I've been suggesting it, but it was every now and then. It was just a tweet, and I was like, I'm done now. Let's just. This is my breaking point. I've had enough of these. I'm just literally like 5 tweets. The founder put out. I was like, please change to this. I went into the Discord. I tried to discuss it there, and I was just like, please change this. Let's change the meta, and this is the way to get it done.
Let me ask you this, what you think about this idea, because I feel like Dutch auctions are in part a price discovery tool, or they could be seen that way. What if you took, I imagine the reason projects don't want to do this is because they don't actually want to sell it for the cheapest price. Like, is there a way to take the average price of the cheapest and the highest, and anybody who paid more than that will go down? Anybody who paid less than that is given the option to pay at the average price, something so that it functions in that price discovery way?
I think what would actually happen, though, is because people feel safer, they're more likely to bid higher. I don't think what you're going to end up with is your fans bid high up, knowing that it's going to go lower, and then everyone will wait for it to go lower, and then they FOMO in at the end. I don't think that's how it works, because that's not how it works in the coin world. You get a more fair price, and who's going to pay more? Like when you offer the option for these lower to go to the average, I just don't think I can't think of a way that actually works. I can't think of a way this Anon wallet goes, oh yes, I'd love to pay up. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, if they knew in advance that this was a risk they were running by,
I feel like you'd have to take the ETH at mint and then refund them a certain amount. I think the lowest amount is the only.
Or they could all go into escrow, and then. But
that's kind of what
you approve the higher.
That's kind of what does happen with the higher payments, right? The first people who mint, it goes to the team, and then, or it will go into a contract, and then at the end of the sale, the contract automatically works it out. Because there has been projects that have done this, and you have to go and claim your Ethereum. And while a small bugbear compared to this, this whole rant on Dutch auctions, there is absolutely no reason to make people go and the gas is minimal. You've just raised hundreds of Ethereum. For God's sake, send it back automatically. Don't make it harder for everyone. That's unnecessary. But if the gas is a large percentage of your sale, then I don't think you should be using a Dutch auction anyway. Like there's a time and a place for what I consider a correct Dutch auction, and it wouldn't be if your mint is 0.02 or anything like that.
Last question on this before I do get us off it. What is the time and the place for a Dutch auction in your view?
It will be. It's kind of arrogance on the team, I guess. It's when you know that you're going to sell out, and you know that it is the best way to avoid a gas war and the best way for price discovery. The issue with price discovery is if you've actually found true price discovery, then the current crop of NFT buyers aren't too happy because there isn't some kind of EV plus buy there for them, because the value is already there, so they're not going to be able to flip in a day unless there's some sort of real mechanic and they're just degening that.
Oh, as in it wasn't you're kind of guaranteed it wasn't underpriced.
Yeah, if you're finding its true value,
and so there's not a flip
yeah.
opportunity. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I'm glad we had this tangent because I think this gives folks a good sense of your brain and how deeply you think about things and how deeply community oriented you are. So this leads me to our mutual friend, Kai Turner. I was talking about the fact that you and I would be speaking, and I was asking if he had anything he felt like I really needed to talk to you about. And he said this, which I loved, about Purrnelope's, your project. We need to make the Purrnelope's case study required reading. They've done so many amazing community things. Carlini's applying the best of what he's observed in communities like CryptoKitties to bring the absolute best practices. Also, the floor tanked after mint, and he brought it back through sheer commitment to the project, and he has no plan to stop anytime soon. So now the floor is up, and it's a great study of how commitment and delivery can bring the floor price back. Lots in there. Maybe let's start with, is that how you experienced things in terms of floor price kind of crashing and then perseverance to bring it back up? Was that the experience for you living through it? And then if yes, would love to know about how you thought about that. I think it's something that's probably relatable to a lot of projects who see their floor prices go down and maybe they start to panic, and they would love to know what it takes to rebuild.
Oh God, I owe Kai a lot of ETH for that, don't I? That was a very nice comment. Well, I guess I never really felt like the floor tanked, in my view, because I wasn't watching it in the same way I would had I invested. I can't come all high horse and be like, oh, I'd never flip. NFT flipping is fun. I have done it for a very long time. And while it isn't, in any way like a professional job that I was doing it, it was just you pick up these trends and you can see how projects sort of mitigate these things.
I have to jump in here and ask, because this is not what this podcast is about, but of course my brain kind of sparked when you talked about I think it sounds like an early retirement thing. Was that made possible through crypto and NFTs specifically, or did you have like a whole plan around how you were going to get to early retirement starting pre-crypto and NFTs?
Oh yeah, I was going to get there. So my number was very large for a normal life, I guess. So the plan was to retire myself and my wife and have our kids all well looked after in a nice house and, all of that. And I had this number. And before NFTs, I was a professional gambler in something called matched betting, kind of. So I started in match betting where the casinos like to call it bonus abusing. So they would offer sign-up bonuses. They would effectively, the casinos are enticing people in so that they get addicted and lose all their money. Whereas I was only playing the bit that they try to entice me in, which they make sure is profitable for you so that you're more likely to win, you're more likely to get hooked in. But I then stopped and moved on to a different offer, and it was just basically doing these offers on an industrial scale. And I was doing well. I was well on my way to financial independence. but it was a couple of years. Like the time frame was quick in any sort of normal case study, but in JPEGs very much shortened that quite quickly come the end of 2020.
Okay, that's a whole other thread that I actually have a lot of questions about, but I interrupted your frame of thought, and I'm sure that's probably annoying to the listener, but because you mentioned NFT flipping, I wanted to get that question in there. So nothing wrong with NFT flipping, but what I'm hearing from you, which I'm not actually surprised, I thought this might be the answer, like you weren't tracking the price fluctuations on that day-to-day level. You had this long-term orientation. So for you, it wasn't like, oh my God, the price has tanked, because you were just like, we're doing our thing. Is it up? Is it down? I don't know. Like, I'm just building. Is that what I'm hearing?
I didn't care for me. I cared for the community and I guess their mental health, because I know what it's like to buy into something and watch the floor dip. And I also have experienced through others what it's like to go all in, While I didn't expect anyone to have gone all in on Penelope's, I did have a look at a couple of wallets, and they'd obviously, you never really know if that is one individual's worth in crypto or if they've got multiple wallets, but quite a lot of people had gone a fairly high percentage in. So what was important to me at that time was messaging. I wanted to try and keep this community that we had as calm as possible. I didn't want them to just dump, lose money, and move on, because I knew I could get us back past mint and over, and we did, and that was right. And what I wanted to ensure was that people knew that we were building. We're not one of the ones where, if 3 hours after the mint we're not at 1 ETH, there is still a future here. Stick around. We're going to keep building. And that was easy enough. That's easy enough to do now. I can just point to what we've done for Penelope so far. But I had to point to NFTBoxes. I had to point to effectively my NFT degeneracy and be like, look, my wallet is 1,300 days old. It's got 15,000 transactions. I know NFTs. I'm going to keep building. Please stay calm and don't lose money here. And, people, I'm sure plenty of people did lose money. I'm sure they dumped, got out and just moved on, and probably went on to have the JPEG summer of their lives. But to the others that stuck around, from that time, they're all up, because we're multiples above mint at this point. So what I try to do is take that negative of people always wanting deliver, when this, when that, what's the floor price, and just take the reward that now I can look back and know that those minters were rewarded for trusting me. Mm-hmm. Sure, they weren't all in, and I'm sure they've done plenty of other stuff, because we don't demand, all of your time. You can go and do plenty of other stuff in NFTs. Just trust that we will continue working ourselves and we won't be doing other stuff. I am not building on anything else. That's another bugbear of mine, when a founder says they're all into their project and then suddenly they're launching something completely different with someone else a few weeks later. Like, so you're not that dedicated, are you then? But I won't go on that rant here.
So are you like, I'm in this for life? I ask this question a lot. Are you like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life? Is this like ruined your retirement plans? Or are you like, hey, we're in this until it's big enough that we hire a CEO?
Well, we are already 9 full-time people. So I would already like to think that Penelope's doesn't need me. That's not me saying I'm leaving. I'm just structuring it in a way.
Let's start that rumor. Carlini leaves Purrnelope's rug.
I'm structuring it in a way that if I get hit by a bus or if a plane lands on my house, there is still a Penelope's there. There is still a team that will build. There is still a team that will have, the Kitty Vault backing to keep going. They will have the funds to keep building. So that is always in the mind. We are planning for the long term, and we're now trying like right now, our current plans are how do we get our current salaries for a runway in the bank, which is not a big salary in this space. I'll add we are very much working on love of NFT first and salary second. But how can we get that in a bank squared away, just sitting there for a year or two, so that's secure? So we can say, look, for the next 2 years or maybe a year, depending on how pricings go and all of that, there'll be at least 10 people working on Purrnelopes, or we have got the budget for 10 people. Then, collabs and progress and website 2.0 and all the things on our roadmap, we price that in as well. So it's all about, we are really planning for the long term. And this is why I said earlier, it really annoyed me when influencers minted and then split ETH between them, because how do you then plan like this? You can just leave at any point, because there is no company, there is no, Pudgy Penguins, they didn't even have an empty vault. There was no vault. The vault hadn't been created to put anything in. And it is just purely about the long game and making sure that, even if something does happen to me, there is a company there. And no, let's not start that rumor. I have no plans to leave. I am thinking about this project all the time. I do not want to go and do anything else. I already, I work from home. I spend every morning with my kids. I look after them. This is all within the plan. I'm already living a good life and working on something that I enjoy. So the plan is to build this to be huge, to the point where my influence is minimal, but I still want to be there, obviously.
You mentioned to me my conversation with Zeneca, I think my very first one, in which Zeneca said he was not a fan of roadmaps because it didn't allow flexibility for projects, or I think it was something along those lines. When you had this moment where the floor price was down and you were reassuring your community, so you had that messaging that you put out there, and then I imagine you got to work building on your roadmap, because you do actually have a roadmap. What is your take on roadmaps? You had sort of a distinct one around most things that people call roadmaps aren't really roadmaps. What is your take on the roadmap situation, and what was your roadmap, call it part one, for Purrnelopes?
Yeah, so I enjoy roadmaps because it's not the roadmap that matters. What you can do is look at a roadmap and it will tell you about the team. You can pluck information out of what they've provided there. You're almost getting an insight into their mind just from their roadmap itself. And our roadmap kind of took a shot at other roadmaps, because we had 0% of mint. We will boost Discord, because it was absolutely insane that there were projects at the time that were like, at 20% mint, we'll boost our Discord to be Nitro or whatever.
Gosh.
It was like, what on earth? Well, how is that a thing? And the issue is, like I said before, you really do have to follow meta if you don't want to do the shady stuff. If you don't want to buy hundreds of bots for your Discord or your Twitter or engagement farming, or literally pay people to be in your Discord to spam when drop or so excited, if you want to avoid all of that, your best chance of minting out is to follow the meta. And the meta right then was 0% this, it was 10% this, 20% this, 30% this, blah, 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 blah.
What does the meta mean in that context?
So right now I'd say I'm hoping we're kind of at the end of the whitelist meta, where if you're not...
Like epoch, like era.
Yeah. So it's just from games, basically. There'd be certain characters that have certain strengths, and the meta is to use those strong ones, and then the devs change how strong they are to keep the game fresh. And then a new meta comes because different heroes are strong, or so my game of choice, I guess, would be Age of Empires 2, and certain civilizations that you play as would be strong on certain maps, and the devs would change that to try and keep it fresh and change that meta, because otherwise everyone's playing as the same civilization. So I guess it's just a term there for the most commonly done thing. Like everyone had a roadmap saying effectively nothingness. And like you said, Zeneca's main issue with roadmaps was rigidness. Like you can't deviate from your roadmap. But we did. So the best two things we did on roadmap 1.0 were we did / are still doing 8 airdrops, one a month. We took the snapshot for number 7 today, actually. So we've got one more next month, and then we've delivered on all of those. And that wasn't on the roadmap, but I feel like when you're a full-time team, you do have much more time to work on than the majority of these roadmaps offer. And it is very important to me to be flexible because of this space and how new it is, and you just never know what's around the corner in this NFT world because of how the technology is growing and changing. Something absolutely insane could come out tomorrow and we have to pivot, or we don't have to, but we think it is in the best interest of the business to pivot, and we can still do that. Like I am still constantly thinking about where we can go and things like that. So I do see tokens being huge, a NFT yielding token, and we promised token. It's on roadmap 2.0, but we'd been tweeting about it, talking about it in our spaces. It's on our YouTube channel for a very long time, to the point I've already registered additional businesses about that was completed about 2 months ago, purely to launch these tokens. And I was in talks with lawyers maybe 5 months ago. So it has been in the works for a long time, despite not being on our original roadmap, because I feel you do have the flexibility, unless your roadmap is ridiculously specific, or you're going for, if you're building an exact game that does an exact thing, it might be quite hard to move from a roadmap. But I feel like projects like that really do need a roadmap for people to know where they're going. It's just more information. Obviously, a roadmap doesn't mean the team is going to deliver this. It means the team is hopefully going to try and deliver this. And it gives you a little bit of insight into, I guess, their thinking. So I just like to be able to look at a pre-mint roadmap, maybe have a look at a couple of others coming out around the same time. Right, have they just copy-pasted? Because if they've copy-pasted, that's a negative straight off the bat. Or are they actually thinking about this? Is anything on here interesting?
That's a good tip. Are you still like an NFT flipper? Like, are you still degenning while you build Purrnelopes?
Not really. Generally, I just mint into friends' stuff or stuff that friends are really, really excited by, because generally, my closest NFT friends, I guess, if I call them that, they've been through, I guess, the horrors of the NFT market of 2018 and 19 and the beginning of 20, and we've all been through that together, and we've all kind of experienced it in the same way, such that I know that if they're excited about it, it probably isn't just because they're going to make money. It's because there's something there. So I minted Doodles, for example, because that was by my friend Poopy. I minted Chainfaces Arena because that was my friend Nate Alex, who actually, no, how do we delete that from the podcast? My enemy, Nate Alex.
Yeah, I think that was that your requirement to coming on the show, that you could mercilessly mock Nate? I think that was
yeah. I can't believe you put out like a bit of a teaser content from Poopy going, "We've hired," and you blanked out the name, and you just have your face like, "Oh my god," face, and
yeah.
You
were like, that's unacceptable. That's an unacceptable reaction to the announcement being Nate Alex, in your view.
I knew he'd joined already because, one friend joining another friend, and I'd commented something under that post like, "If this is a hollow cat, I'm going to be fuming."
Yeah, that was funny. Okay, I want to talk about the Kitty Vault because I think this is really interesting. And you mentioned you have these 8 airdrops. So I'm going to give a high level here of my understanding of what you're doing with Kitty Vault, and then we'll let you really expand on it. You have 8 airdrops total going to your holders, and many of them are tied to physicals, like a 3D physical of your Purrnelope or merchandise. And so you have this system in place, from my understanding, which is that with each of your airdrops, you have options. You can keep the airdropped NFT. You can burn the airdrop NFT token or the NFT to redeem for the physical associated with it. Or you're building out this plan. It's not, I don't think, fully operational yet, where you'll be able to burn your airdropped NFT for tokens that represent a fraction of this Kitty Vault. And the Kitty Vault has about 1,000 ETH worth of NFTs in it, ranging from Bored Apes to Kongs, Doodles that might be in there, a whole bunch of blue chip and other NFTs that are worth about 1,000 ETH. And you can have a fraction of this vault if you burn your airdrop and choose to go that route. Did I summarize that correctly?
Yes, that was pretty good. How much are your services to replace me and explain this way better than me?
No. I mean, we had a long talk about it the other day, and it's stayed with me not only because I was interviewing you, but because I think that's really interesting. So, let me ask, first of all, was this a part of the original plan? Was this something that's evolved since? Is it modeled off of anything else? How did this come to be?
It was fairly, maybe it was during Mint that this sort of plan came into place.
So very early.
Yeah, so we'd already opened up minting, and minting took about a month because I was anonymous at the time, and a few people knew it was me, but not many, because I didn't feel it was right for people to think I was working on NFTBoxes when in reality I was selling my half. And I thought it would not only look bad on Purrnelope's, but I thought it would look bad on Pranksy and NFTBoxes as well. I've just said a couple of minutes ago, I hate it when people are working on something and then they launch something else. And I guess what I have here is proof that I do hate it, because I didn't use the advantage that it was me. I didn't use my years in NFTs to sell a project until I was officially out of the other one. And we were thinking, how can we do NFT airdrops properly? Or I guess I use properly how I think they should be done. Because what I didn't like about the Bored Apes Kennel Club drop was you were awarded for having your ape at a snapshot, an exact point in time, and after that they were just 2 separate entities until very recently. So months and months there was just no use of the dog at all. Now that sounds kind of harsh, because obviously they are building out the dog lore, and the Bored Apes Roadmap 2.0 has the dogs quite heavily involved. I believe they're 2 parts of. It looks like they're going to save the clubhouse or something like that. But I would question the viewers and say, what if it wasn't Bored Apes? If it was just, if it wasn't the most successful NFT project ever, if it was anyone else, how's that airdrop doing? Not well. So I'm thinking from my point of view, where I'm putting out an NFT and I'm not the most successful NFT project ever, I want to make sure straight out of the gate that airdrop has a use and isn't just, well done, you can go and sell it. Because for the majority of airdrops, well done, you can go and sell it, doesn't work out well. And we now have hundreds of examples of that not going well. So, I'm kind of vindicated there, because I was like, well, this airdrops are just pointless most of the time. And now we have lots of proof of that. So I wanted to make sure that ownership of this Kitty Vault we were building was somehow tied to these airdrops. So they're inside these airdrops, and you have to destroy them to get that. Or you can claim this physical. So the goal was always to try and take this airdrop back from people in multiple ways. So we're really tugging at that NFT and making people choose. And if they don't want to choose, they don't have to. They can just hold. That's fine. They can hold. They can collect. Of course, they can sell. But there are also other things that we're doing to make sure that there is utility there and there is underlying value via the Kitty Vault.
And that 1,000 ETH worth of NFTs that are in the Kitty Vault, were those yours? How did you accumulate those? Did you use proceeds from the initial sale to buy them and leverage your talent at picking good projects? How did that work?
We did just use a sale. I didn't put it. It wasn't like the whale token, where Whale Shark had all these NFTs and then put them into a collection and fractionalized it. Like I said, we have on chain that we are all about the community, and you can go and look and see that these NFTs were bought from we have several different company wallets that do different things, and we have subdomained them, so you can kind of see what they are. Some of them are just subdomains that we didn't want other people to take. So at the end of every YouTube video, our creative director Kate says mini meow, because at the time when we started that, we were teasing our first companion, which was a kitten, and it was like, it's not a meow, it's a mini meow, because kittens are small. And that kind of became a bit of a meme within the community. So we minted that one on one of the community wallets just to make sure that no one else stole it from us and did whatever with it. So what we then did is took the majority of our sale and shoveled it into the Kitty Vault. And while I picked quite a lot of the NFTs, the community did as well. We voted on what they wanted to do with certain portions of ETH, and it was all segmented in different ways. But it wasn't really any, if I'm honest, it wasn't really any special picking, because, last year everything went up. Like, I did have a bit of FOMO because during our mint, Visa announced they'd bought a punk.
Buying the punk.
And at that point, I instantly took money out of the contract and bought a punk. I think I bought two, and I actually flipped one as the company in 2 hours, flipped it for however much profit. Obviously, I wish I kept it. But of course, hindsight's 2020.
Well, as Zeneca says, infinite regret. This space is just a space of infinite regret, because you will never time the market perfectly.
There is absolutely no one who has done the 100%. And the problem with this space is the winners are always in your face, and you're always reminded of, like, Bored Apes, for example. I was told over and over again to mint them because, my friends Pranksy and Jimmy both minted huge amounts. And just to make it worse, Pranksy minted in 2 segments. So it was like, guys, I'm minting this. I'm going to mint 200. What's special there? He was like, I don't know, I'm just minting it. I'll leave it. Next day, I'm minting 1,000 more. Why? What's special about this project? Like, there was just nothing that made me want to go upstairs and mint. Obviously, I was told many, many times go and mint. I was told many, many times buy. And, there's, no matter how successful someone is in this space, there's going to be at least, it's not even that one that got away, it's that 10 that got away. Yeah. Not selling at the top and then buying in lower. And, it's more about dealing with mentally, how can you cope with those regrets? And I probably have a bit of a head start given my gambling background and how I came into the space. I dealt with big losses when they should have been big wins back then, and now the big wins and big losses are way bigger, but it's just a percentage at the end of the day of numbers.
Do you think there's a certain element of, like, temperament? You're temperamentally well suited to the high risk, high reward lifestyle, or do you actually think it's something you've learned?
I think I'm quite well suited to high risk, high reward, while also being an absolute FOMO dragon. Like, I just I
I love the phrase FOMO dragon.
like I guess, I FOMO, as well as the rest of them. But what I do have is in my mind, I'm like, right, I am making this decision based on the information I have now. And I have accepted that. Information can change, variable change, things will change in front of me. But I didn't have that information at the time I made the decision. I made the best decision I could at the time. It was wrong. I know it was wrong because I'm looking back at it. In this space, you never look back at your winners. You're never like, oh, that was great. You're just like, oh, but it could have been this. And it's people just have to figure out how A, they best deal with it, and B, how can they make that better for them. No one can change themselves to deal with it in the perfect way. No one can look at someone who's really good and go, right, I want to be able to mentally accept it like them. You just can't. You have to realize where you are now and try and improve that, but know where your personal limits are.
Coming back to the Kitty Vault.
Yes.
Have you worked out the tokenomics such that you understand the burn rate for getting a fractional piece of the Kitty Vault and therefore can tell us whether or not Purrnelope's is undervalued right now based on the fact that it'll get these airdrops and those will be burned for Kitty Vault stakes?
It's, well, I don't really want to say this out loud on a podcast to such a huge subscriber base. No, it's not. It's not undervalued based on that. And I guess this is a whole other rant with NFTs, is when you add some form of utility, and I wouldn't say, the Kitty Vault is utility in a way, it's sort of an underlying backing collection of assets that backs your NFT. But in this space, when you add utility to an NFT, everyone values it on that utility. I remember there was a game called Ember Sword, I think, that I was looking to mint a while ago. I was looking to mint some land in this game. And I was watching a YouTube video where they were working out if the game hits this amount of daily active users, this is the amount of revenue your land will make. So I wouldn't pay anything more than X. Whereas if there was absolutely no utility, this calculation wouldn't happen, and people would pay 10 times X because there's just no ceiling. You add what people want and it adds a ceiling. And that's not really a Purrnelope rant, because I don't see the Kitty Vault as utility as such. I see it more like the gold standard backing the dollar. Back in the day, no one would ever actually want to use that gold. They just knew it was there, and that protected the dollar itself. So what I do see happening is, as the Kitty Vault goes up in value, which it should do, it does have some very good NFTs in it. And I do ask you, if you go and look at it, do sort it by most last paid, because we do get lots of stuff sent to it, and there have been, generally it's a long-term value play. So if something is really lowly priced and I can get lots of it for 0.1 ETH, it just seems worth doing, because it's a moonshot, why not? Whereas if you search it by highest last paid, you then see the Bored Apes, you see the CryptoPunk, you see the Genesis Kongs, you see the founder avatars. They're all at the top because we paid more for those NFTs. So the share you would get, I probably shouldn't say share, the fractional representation you would get of the Kitty Vault isn't, like, if that was worth more than the NFT was, then I would just be buying it, because I'd be like, well, this is silly. Or I'd put it in Discord and I'm sure someone would buy it, because when you have a reasonable argument and you go, look guys, this is actually worth this and it's undervalued because of this, people don't mind buying in because they can accept that. It's not FOMO, it's facts and figures. Right now it is working as intended. The NFT is worth more than that share, because it should be. Because if you think of those bar graphs where they where they have different things on the y-axis and they sort of stack up. If you think the underlying value of the Kitty Vault is a large portion of one of our airdrops in one color, and then you have a little bit on top that is just the fact it is an NFT, it is a collectible, it does have this other utility on top as well. So it should always be worth more than the fraction of the Kitty Vault.
It functions as a really interesting floor for the project, at any given moment in time, which is sort of the gold standard backing analogy that you're giving, which I think is really interesting. And I again, haven't really seen, and so I like it as just a new and innovative concept.
In theory, we can never go to zero, because for us to go to zero, all NFTs have to go to zero. Not all, I guess, our NFTs, but when you now have a $5 billion valuation, Yuga Labs, and you have their, I guess technically their punks, their Meebits, their apes, and their mutants, and a dog, it's going to be quite tricky for us to go to zero, I think, at this point.
Is it the community of token holders, ultimately, the folks who own the fractions of the Kitty Vault, they will ultimately determine if something gets sold and paid out to the token holders? How does that exit strategy for the Kitty Vault function? Not that they're, in theory, probably not that there is an exit in sight, but conceptually speaking.
So the Kitty Vault will be on fractional 2.0. And the reason it isn't on fractional 1.0 was kind of demonstrated this week with the ape token drop. We are seeing a lot of apes within fractional wallets get sold right now, because if they sell, they can claim their ape, and in the vault they can't. Now, fractional 2.0's vault system is apparently going to solve this sort of thing, along with, for instance, our Genesis Kong yields banana. And if it's in a vault, it yields banana to that address. So you can't claim that banana, and it's always gone. So you've got this token you've got this NFT yielding a token that you never have access to if you've fractionalized it. And again, this is something that 2.0 is aiming to solve.
So this will be on fractional, so there will be a buyout price for the collection that the community will set.
Yeah, so the community it will be a bit tricky, because we've kept back 10,000 ourselves precisely for that reason, because the tokens themselves will be held in a contract waiting for people to burn their NFTs. So just thinking ahead, I don't think there'll be many community tokens in circulation early doors. I think it will take a while for these NFTs to be, I've said burnt, we've tried to change that rebranding to redeem, just because I don't want people to randomly send it to OXOO dead, not get their token because they haven't sent it to a contract that sorts that out for them. So what we're currently planning to do when this goes live is we'll have our 10,000 tokens, which is 10% of the 100,000 there are, and we will have a snapshot vote on what they want to set the vault price at, and we will then just, unfortunately it is in a trust way, it's not trustless. They have to trust that we will then set the price at the same way. I mean, in theory, if they didn't want to trust us, they could all burn all of their airdrops and their Purrnelopes, get more tokens than us, and then vote on it. I cannot see a world at all where that happens, but it's an option. And we would then set the price, and I imagine it would be much higher than, we have a weekly Kitty Vault report that comes out and says the floor price. It's really hard to value a collection that big, and generally what we're seeing, which I know you're quite involved in the Meebits DAO, is generally the price of these tokens track under the true value of the vault. So I do imagine that we'll put it quite a bit higher than our Kitty Vault report, because the goal isn't for it to sell. The goal is not for this to sell. But if it does, people have asked, like, what happens if it does? And the answer is, if you want to burn your NFT to claim this Ethereum, which is effectively just selling your NFT, really, you get rid of the NFT, you get the Ethereum back. but then no one else can ever have the NFT. You can then get rid of that share, and we'll probably give a time period for everyone that wants to, or maybe they want to think about it. They can have a week or two to claim that ETH. And then we go shopping as a community. We just go again. And in a way, we would then have less shares to split it between, because some people have claimed that ETH and they've effectively cashed out. Instead of there being 100,000, maybe 5,000 have been used, and now there's 95,000 shares of the Kitty Vault. And we just go and buy what we consider undervalued projects again. Like, in my head, if we get bought out, it's a good thing because they have overpaid and we can then go and get value again. I think emotionally people might be, getting attached to our vault at this time because, we've had that punk a long time. We've had those 2 Genesis Kongs. People have started naming things within the Kitty Vault. So I'm sure, there'd be some tie that takes the hit, but then we can go and get a much higher valuation. And I just don't see people massively overbidding on our vault, because that you've got to do it in one go, right? So let's say NFTs double in 6 months. That's 2,000 Ethereum plus 2% of our revenue goes directly into it. You're looking at a big old vault that someone has to be able to bid on.
Everyone is talking about the metaverse these days, and we're all still trying to figure out what it actually is, because everyone is looking for how to get exposure to it. That is why a metaverse index fund is so important, because in such a young market, an index can give you broad exposure to all the various players who are building out all these digital worlds that will ultimately become the metaverse. And that's why you should check out the Metaverse Index from the Index Co-op. The Metaverse Index gives you simple, easy, and safe one-click exposure to the emerging open metaverse trend. The MVI Index contains some of the biggest metaverse projects out there, including Axie Infinity, Decentraland, Illuvium, and more. So join thousands of holders who have already trusted nearly $50 million to the MVI Index. And if you buy $500 of MVI on the Dharma app, you can receive $50 worth of ETH on the Polygon network. There's a link in the show notes for you to click so you can get started on your journey into the metaverse. Axie Infinity is a game universe filled with cute, fascinating little creatures called Axies that players can collect as pets. Players aim to battle, breed, collect, raise, and build kingdoms for their Axies. There are and will be many varied gaming experiences for Axies, many of them having players compete with each other using complex strategies and tactics to attain top rankings or be rewarded with coveted resources. Others will have them complete quests, defeat bosses, and unlock in-depth storylines. There are countless unique Axies that players can collect with varying body parts and experiences. The Axie universe is a player-owned economy where the players can truly own, buy, sell, and trade the resources they earn in the game through skilled gameplay and contributions to the ecosystem. It's a digital nation where people come together globally with their Axies to play, earn, and live. Join the Axie revolution at axieinfinity.com/bankless.
You created a subdomain for Purrnelope's country club. It's PCC. So for example, your ENS name now is Carlini. Is it Carlini8N? Carlini8?
Carlini8. If anyone listening can get me Carlini8 on Twitter, DM me.
All right, you heard it here first. Carlini8.pcc.eth would be your ENS name now,
yes,
and you have that .pcc subdomain. This is awesome. I want you to talk about it, but again, I'm going to give my sort of high-level overview here, which is, on the surface, this is a brilliant marketing, social signaling play, because you now have all these people on Twitter who have their names not just set to carly.eth, for example, or whatever their name is, but to carly.pcc.eth, signaling that I'm a part of your community, and it's just another form of making your profile picture something. So I think that's really cool. I haven't seen other projects doing it, but would love to hear from you why you think this is awesome, why you chose to do it, what you think the potential is for ENS subdomains in the broader NFT culture.
Well, for most of these issues, any kind of branding play, whenever I try to think about how big it will be, I always just think, if Bored Apes did it, how crazy would people go? So if
that's a good litmus test.
Bored Apes offered you the ability to link an ENS subdomain, BAYC.eth, which they own, they have it, they can do this. If you're listening, guys, the top level of our contract says This will work for all ERC 721s. Feel free to use, go ahead. If you make a subdomain that is your brand, then your favorite community, and then .eth, your favorite chain, presumably, because it's the best one. Then you're saying a lot in your username. It's also your wallet, so people can use that to go and see straight away what you've got. And I think, how right now people are always like, they have their vault, and it's called their name and vault. I think long term, what we'll see is people will have their curated NFT collections in their ENS branded subdomain, because they won't use that like a hot wallet. I think that will be where they're like, this is the stuff I'm proud of. Because, let's say Twitter hexagon subdomains, or just domains in general. What if you could just click it and it takes you straight to a gallery where you can walk around those NFTs? Or it takes you straight to the wallet itself and you can just browse this person's collection. In a way, what you're saying there is, this is me. This is what I want you to see about me when I'm telling you who I am. So I am Carlini8. Actually, don't go look at my wallet because I have not curated that and there are far too many metabots in there. Then I'm telling you the community that I spend, the first Discord I open of the day. And that is obviously going to be Purrnelope's. I'll be bearish on absolutely anyone who runs a project who it isn't their own project. And then it's the utility of the wallet tied in. And, just as a personal thing, in October and February, I have ran giveaways. Every day I gave away one Purrnelope for, certain, mostly it was retweeting a tweet. Sometimes it was coming into Discord or making a meme. And in October, we didn't have it. And I had to, congrats, you've won. Send a DM, what's your wallet? Then get the old classic, someone changing their name and profile picture to them. Oh, yeah, I won, trying to scam. But in February, about half of the retweets were from my community. They had .pcc.eth, and I could just send it straight away. I didn't have to ask them. I could just send it because it was active. And if it failed, I could be like, hey, what's up? Why are you LARPing a pcc.eth? Just go and register it. We give them away for free. It's just gas. And it's less gas than a normal domain. You don't have to pay to keep it longer. We register it as long as .pcc.eth is registered. And we have absolutely no plans in letting that lapse. We really believe it is the future and we'll keep that going. You don't have to pay more. You're effectively not paying maintenance. We will pay the maintenance because you're repping us, right? You're showing everyone that you like our brand. And it just turns your username into a profile picture. So if profile pictures are such a big thing, why can username projects not be such a big thing? Just to kind of play on that.
I love the idea of now you can click your carly.pcc.eth username, come to my gallery, see my NFTs. That interactivity there, that's a very cool concept that I think is inevitable. I don't know if people understand ENS domains entirely. They are NFTs, so if you have an ENS domain, you probably realize that because you've probably seen it in your OpenSea wallet at some point. But they're also really just pointers to things in many ways. And so if my understanding is correct, Purrnelope's did something interesting where, and maybe this wasn't universal, you can correct me, but the .pcc.eth points to a specific cat. It's not you won't see the NFT itself in your OpenSea wallet. It's actually tied to one of your existing Purrnelope NFTs. Am I correct on that?
Yes. So it also acts kind of a proof of ownership. So you can only have an active .pcc.eth if you own a real Purrnelope, which, if Twitter did do this hexagon thing, you wouldn't be able to just mint any old, you see some of these hexagon apes, and when you actually find it, they've just minted an ape in a different contract and then said, yeah, it's an NFT, and Twitter's gone, yep, that's an NFT, we'll show it. And that actually happened quite a lot. There was someone going around Doodle Twitter accounts trying to find them, and if they couldn't find the username matching the Doodle, they then went looking for the NFT that had been verified on Twitter. Whereas with subdomains, pcc.eth, if that was verified, you cannot fake that. They might try, if we had an I in our name, they might try, or if we had an L, they might try a capital I, that sort of thing. But then again, that is really limited in how you can fake it. So I do think it is a big way for Twitter to improve. And now that I've given Twitter that great idea, I'm sure they're frantically trying to contact me to claim it. It just takes that proof of ownership to the next level without them having to whitelist NFTs instead of letting any NFT be used.
Speaking of your opinions, speaking of ideas of yours, opinions of yours, one of the rant topics that you went off on a little bit when we spoke earlier that I loved was about how to do ERC20 tokens right within the context of an ERC 721 project. And some criticisms you have of the way that Bored Apes did it. I think specifically you told me that Bored Apes did it wrong, but they can afford to do it wrong. However, if somebody else tries to copy their process, they're screwed. So can you elaborate as to what you felt Bored Apes got wrong in the ape token drop?
Yeah, so I do think they did it wrong. And, that's obviously really hard to say when you're looking at a token where there are going to be 2 billion of them and they're currently sitting at roughly $15 a piece, which I will just put in here. I learnt of Ape token releasing on a Wednesday during a Penelope Spaces, which I predicted it would be $15. And I even have a tweet. I put a poll up saying, I think it'll be $15. Do you think it'll be less, more, or the same? And
wow, that's
I'm definitely not deleting that because, that's...
Oh, retweet that now,
So I did expect that this would work for them. But I think it works because they are them. The other thing is they also know they are them. This isn't news. They know their position in the world, so they could do this. I think anyone that copies this will tank their project because you cannot launch without utility with a yielding token. And I think NFTs should yield because, like I said before, I didn't like that the dog was split from your ape instantly. And again, that worked out because Bored Apes are Bored Apes. Or Bored Apes became Bored Apes and they kind of did it. They did this NFT airdrop successfully first. There are these silly NFT archaeologists who will try and tell you should buy up doggos or whatever it is because they did something similar 10 days before, which is obviously complete nonsense and a rant I'll leave for another day. But any old project, unless you are literally the 5 billion valuation leader who can have the amazing execution to be on every major exchange at the same time and have them all tweeting at your launch, if you don't have utility, your token is just going to tank because why are people buying it? And we see this all the time. It's not new. Projects are launching without utility. And my main worry is that everyone has always copied Bored Apes for the past half a year. For the last 6 months, people have copied Bored Apes. And they're going to do it now and tank what potentially could be a good project, and they'll be stuck with this token. Once you launch a token, it's there. You can't get rid of it. You can't just fly, sorry guys, we hyped you up about this token and now we're not going to use it. Why
do you think they launched now before the play to earn game was ready or before it had immediate utility? They're obviously savvy. They obviously get the market. Was it just because they wanted to back it with the Punk Meebit purchase, and that had to be at a certain time? What do you think was behind the timing?
Well, they did buy a lot of social equity by buying punks. Instantly buying Punk and Meepit IP and then giving them the rights that punks and Meebits had been yearning for so long is probably, you know, the chaddest move in NFT history. Like, it's just so baller, it's unbelievable. We can see it coming for, you know, the first few months. I'm sure people joked about it, and I'm sure people have tweets they can retweet or, you know, text to their mum that they sent, these are going to buy punks or whatever. But I don't think anyone truly believed it. And then obviously they kept growing and growing. And punks aren't apes. Apes are a company that have proven they will continuously build, whereas punks are a relic. They're an NFT relic where effectively in their sale tweet, Lava Labs said, we never wanted this. You know, they see themselves as artists, and suddenly projects are coming out and building and they don't want to build. I remember I was absolutely fuming in 2019 because I was a big CryptoKitty player, and CryptoKitties were doing so much. Their website was insane for the time for an NFT project. It's still insane now. It's broken in parts because it's effectively been abandoned for a long time, but the website is still, it has crazy utility built in, and they were doing so much. They were running fancy contests. They were paying community members to try and build games, which ultimately didn't work out, but they were trying, and they got a lot of hate. Whereas Lava Labs in 2019 updated a filter on their site so you could look at your CryptoPunks better, and everyone went wild. Oh, well done. Oh, that's great. Oh, you're the best. And I was like, they've slightly changed their website. Like, it wasn't even lots. They slightly upgraded their website and got huge praise. CryptoKitties that, you know, I was having fun playing in had done all this stuff and just got a lot of hate. Partly from me, you know, I'm not going to pretend I was all nicey. I was, you know, shouting like the rest of them. But I guess my point is they never did anything buildy. Lava Labs, I don't actually know if it's true. It's just like a guess. But in my head, they inspired Nifty Gateway because they sold a physical print at a gallery of a CryptoPunk to the Winklevoss twins, who then, I'm pretty sure they own Gemini, who run Nifty Gateway. So, you know, I am not in the position to talk to them. Maybe if you ever do, you could ask them if they were inspired by Lava Labs in any way. But in my head, they are. And that is a way that they inspired the space, but they never wanted to build on punks. And then got a lot of hate for, like, doing Meebits and then doing nothing after it, or giving T-pose and nothing. But I think the timing of the ape drop, it's probably something that I couldn't guess, something internal that I couldn't guess, or, you know, they have been known, fuck it mutants, fuck it ape. We finally, I can imagine, because, you know, we know of Kai's issues dealing with Lava Labs. It took them so long to engage a man who was trying his best to only add value to Meebits. Meebits DAO did more for Meebits than Lava Labs, from my point of view. Like, I don't know if internally Kai will think differently, or if you will think differently, or if he wouldn't ever voice that, but, you know, actually think it. But they just would not help him. This man is, or this whole community is working so hard on Meebits, and they wouldn't engage for so long. But then, all of a sudden, they're selling to Yuga, who maybe were having to deal with that sort of slowness and lack of engagement. It finally went through. They wanted the token to have launched maybe, because they had said Q1. Like, they had said it, and we were getting to the point where people are thinking, oh, maybe this isn't going to happen. When in reality, maybe they were just waiting for slow Lava Labs to have got this sale through. Sorry, Lava Labs, if this is completely wrong and you were really quick, but that's just my sort of perception from the outside. That sale goes through and they're like,
It was a powerful 1-2 punch, that announcement.
It was epic.
The Ape Metaverse video with the punks and the me, but like, I mean, damn.
I mean, you can tell it was
Damn.
late as well because the leaked deck didn't have the punk and the me bit because it wasn't theirs. They couldn't use it. So they had clearly planned it without it. And then bam, they get it, change it, and it's just all go. It must have been exciting in their offices when that went through.
So circling back to your issues with
Oh, yes.
the drop, I think there are two really, which is one, this point that gets back to the Kennel Club frustration. And I thought this was an interesting point, which is they airdropped the tokens, whatever you were entitled to as an ape holder, your 10,000 tokens, whatever it was. You got that all at once. And so that automatically almost makes it a distinct entity. It makes Ape the coin and your Bored Ape sort of distinct entities, not entirely, of course, they're deeply interconnected, but you're trying to drive value for both the ApeCoin and the Bored Ape, as opposed to if your Bored Ape yielded tokens over time. By adding value to either one, you're inherently, well, I guess if by adding value to the ape token, you're then inherently adding value to the Bored Ape because it's yielding that ape token over time. Much like the kennel, the dog was sort of so independent and didn't have utility from day one. That's sort of argument one you're making about why you didn't like the way the token drop was structured. Is that correct?
Yes, and I know the argument will be, but the DAO is voting to stake, and the time period is quite short. And just today, so between our two chats, apes are now all kind of trying to figure out what the proposal actually is, because there's a bit of confusion over how it works. And even just while we've been talking, there's a Twitter Spaces, and there a couple of high profile apes are tagging the founders and trying to figure out what does this actually mean. So it's not as simple as if their NFTs just yielded the token. And I just think it is the way. Your NFT should yield long term the token, because then when you add value to the token, you are adding value to your NFT. I don't know if maybe this is the way they can do it legally, because I know I can do it legally my way, but I'm in the UK and have followed different procedures, whereas I know they're in the US, which it gets much trickier. So I'm wondering if that's the reason why they can't yield the NFT directly, but they can stake if a DAO has voted for it, maybe.
That would make sense, because they could also have a contract set up. The DAO would have a contract where it's basically like an algorithm enacting it, not an entity, So it's like, it's not Yuga that is yielding this token via the staking. It's this algorithm over here. It gives them a layer of separation from the action itself, which gives them a layer of protection over, the SEC coming after them in some capacity. So that's a good thought, actually. That might be it. And your second critique, which was sort of wrapped up in that first one, is that they didn't launch with utility immediately, and we've sort of digested that and discussed that problem.
Yeah, so my main worry is that it's not that Bored Apes have done this. It's that people will copy Bored Apes and they're going to tank their project effectively, in my view.
Okay, the last topic that I absolutely wanted to get to with you, and then again, there may be other little things that pop up as we're talking about this, is your announcement, I think as part of Purrnelope's Roadmap 2.0, that you all, or Purrnelope's had purchased land in NFT worlds and is building, I think it was like 4 games, but is building in NFT worlds. Would love for you to say more about that, and also why you chose to buy land in NFT worlds. With many metaverses to choose from, why have you chosen to fly with NFT worlds?
Yeah, so having sort of been here through the length of these other metaverses, so it is a bit weird to have been here this long, and I saw the Decentraland original sale. I think it was 15 million way back then that they raised, which was a large amount for an NFT project back then, like loads. There's, Sandbox is another big player. and then Voxels, which was kind of a spin-off of, I don't want to say spin-off of Decentraland, but he worked there, and then he was like, oh, this isn't going to work, I'm going to do it right, and then went to do it. And then there are more recent ones, and I've ended up picking NFT Worlds, which is one of the newer ones. Why have I done that when all the others have been building so long? And while it's the newest one, it actually has the most tested game in history backing it. So Minecraft is the most played game in history, probably, almost certainly. Most bought game in history. It somehow just survives everything. Some people stop playing, and then suddenly for some reason kids are now playing this really old game. Great game. And you can be really creative in it, so there's just so many ways to play within Minecraft. But when you can take that base underlying tech, add it to effectively Web3, and package that up, what you've got is sort of a quick fire way to have an incredibly tested, the most battle tested piece of software in the gaming world, effectively, to then allow people to build in. And it also comes with builders that have worked on it for longer than NFTs have been around. So we've partnered with Entity Builds, who are building on our world for us. And they have held Microsoft contracts to effectively build the games that Microsoft have made around Minecraft. So since Notch sold it to Microsoft, and Microsoft have now actually owned it longer than Mojang ever did. And what you end up with is a team that are familiar with what they're doing already. They don't have to learn all of these different intricacies just to make a world or to make a game. And I did find this a bit tricky for so your friends at IYK, when we were planning out this hoodie that we've got, which was our first airdrop, which has an NFT in it, and it, in my opinion, solves in real life fashion and metaverse fashion, linking together. When we were trying to get the design in, say, Decentraland for that, it was tricky. There were hoops to jump through, people to talk to, whereas it's easier in an already battle-hardened process. And the things they can build and release just seem insanely good. Decentraland don't have anything close to being able to play those types of games yet. And I'm sure they're coming, but as a founder who's, wanting to deliver when game, that's the pressure that the community put on you. I can't wait on a different project to get there. Sandbox don't let you, or at least at the time, don't let you build as a person, I guess. You have to kind of go through them, and there's just more red tape to be able to do that. So other projects are able to, but, like Snoop Dogg, for some reason, has more say than me in what can happen. I don't know why that is.
I talked about Snoop Dogg's sandbox, I don't know, activation land last week because I started playing around in it, and my boyfriend commented that he was like, "Are you watching porn?" Like, he was like, "What's the porn music coming out of your computer?" And it was me in the Snoop Dogg metaverse, so in the sandbox. So there's a plug for it.
Yeah, for some reason he had more sway than me, and he could get that built.
Yeah,
not sure why. Don't know who even knows who he is, So there was just kind of red tape there blocking that, and just these incredible builds that Entity Builds had, and I'd reached out to them, and it was actually quite tricky to get in touch. We kept missing each other, and I really did persevere because I just thought this is the best option for us. And just the way that it's already got the world token integrated, so we'll be able to have a stash of world token, and we're going to have 4 different games with various different, I guess, levels or arenas within it, and we can reward people for doing certain things. So one of the games is going to be a golf game. Whoever whoever scores the lowest that week or even that day, we could reward with token. Whoever kills the most zombies in the zombie defense game, we could reward with token. We could have esports leagues set up based on high scores within our game. So just the ability of using that token within these games just adds another level of, I guess, exposure to people, because people will go to worlds where they could potentially earn money. Like if they're good at zombie games, they're going to go and try and win our zombie game.
How do you think about the balance between using world's token, the world token, as a reward, and the ERC20 token that is going to be yielded by a Purrnelope and by your own NFT?
So there's a sort of short-term, long-term play there. So short-term, we will be using world because it's already easily integrated. There is a community built around the world token that we can tap into by using it. And people will know what it is. Like if you're just scrolling through worlds to go and play, and you see that this one yields world and this other one yields Purrnelope token, but you don't know natively what Purrnelope token is worth. So it's another form of advertising, I guess, to be able to use world token at the start. And maybe as we're more sort of established in the world token, the world NFT world's world or ecosystem, we could add our token as well. But in reality, that will require some kind of talk with NFT worlds, because I don't want to come in and just be like, screw your token, we're going to use ours. I want to have a conversation and be like, so what do you actually want to see from your worlds? Would you have an issue of us using our token? Which obviously I haven't had yet, because we don't even have our games ready or our token. So at this point, it's not needed yet. But that will be a conversation that had, and maybe we'll have some sort of converter instead, where your Purrnelope automatically goes into world, which you then can convert back and forth.
What is your planned utility, knowing that you feel it's very important to have utility out the gate for a token, for the Purrnelope token when it's released, as it won't be a reward within your gaming ecosystem, at least initially?
So that's what do I leak from Roadmap 2.0? So
is this alpha? Are we about to get alpha, or is this public?
I think it's technically alpha. I don't know what I talk about half the time. I might have leaked everything in spaces. Can you tell I talk when I'm talking about NFTs? Whereas talk to me about anything else and I just won't say a word. Like in the real world, I'm quiet, but NFTs just can't stop. We have our tier 2. Our tier 2, which is effectively, so Purrnelope's tier 1, an unknown tier 2, and then there are 2 tier 3s, which are your kitten and next month's airdrop. Tier 2 is effectively our Meebit, Mutant, that kind of level. Now, I said before, flexibility is key, and that we're going to be raising money to try and ensure that we have that salary banks for at least a year, maybe 2. So what we have planned is we're going to sell, before token is released, probably in May, we're going to sell an NFT which yields token, and it's going to be priced up that if you want token, it will be better than buying a Purrnelope by quite a bit. But you will know that you're funding the teams. I might even somehow try and get a little sort of presentation on how we've spent our ETH. You can see on chain, we have a history of, by that time, 10, 11 months of spending our ETH responsibly for Purrnelopes. You will know that by buying this cheaper NFT that yields token, which will have a bit of a degen play, so you might be able to get quite a rare NFT that yields quite a lot of token. It will all be priced up to make it worth going for without devaluing Penelope's. It's quite a tricky balance to make, and you'll be funding us securing that year or two of runway, while also then effectively adding extras to Roadmap 2.0. That's where all of our funding will go after we've secured everything. And also it funds the entity builds, because so far I've told them, yes, I'll pay, and I've paid a third of it so far, and it is expensive. They have asked me not to say, and I completely respect that. But it will very much be worth it. It's incredible the games that they're able to build in these worlds. But our token out of the gate, you will be able to mint tier 2s. So the second tier of our club, you'll be able to mint it. There is a bit of a twist, but do I say there are 6 different tier 2s within it.
I'm moving in closer, listening closely.
And within those 6 different tier 2s, there will be then different rarities. So there are almost 6 collections within this one collection of tier 2s. And the thing you will be buying is almost like a mutant serum based on, I don't know if you've seen the Subduck snack shop.
I don't think I have, actually.
So they have Vault, their token, and they sold snacks that could do certain different things in their Vault shop, and I loved that idea. And we will be selling different items that you will use on a Penelope, a kitten, or the other companion, and there'll be 2 different items for each one, and that will then create your other thing. I've leaked a lot of plan there.
That's awesome. Lots of alpha.
Yeah.
Well, so now, of course, they have to ask when token.
Well,
Now I've got to be that asshole.
if the plan for the sale is May, the working plan for token is June.
That's awesome. It also reminds me of something that I've loved, which is the Cool Cats plan for Cool Pets, where you feed it, you can buy things and feed it different things, and that'll affect whether it becomes fire, earth, rain, or its elemental piece. Is that similar as well to what you're describing?
Is that a longer term
Yours is better?
feeding? I'm more asking because I'm not entirely sure what it was.
I don't think so. It is ongoing. It's not like a one-time feeding.
Okay, so ours
But
would
it is
be
like
mutant serum style. You give the serum,
One
it
time.
makes it, but you actually get it in a Subduck style way, and you yield the token in a CyberKong style way. So I have said from the start, if I think an idea is good, I will see how we can take it. And I love the shop. I love the token yielding. I love the using that item you get from the shop to create something. And then we've added that within the collection there'll be 6, and just try and add a little bit on top of the stuff that I've taken from elsewhere, I guess.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. I love getting a glimpse into how your brain works. You obviously there's a lot that your brain does right and like figures out right, if that's not a weird thing to say, just based on how you discovered the space so early and your success in it. And I've just been so grateful to get to learn more about Purrnelope's, both through obviously this conversation directly, but even in doing some research leading up to this conversation. I have to ask, as like a final question, I know this feels like it almost like runs, I don't know if it runs counter to what we've been saying, but like, where would you like Purrnelope's to be in 5 years? Do you have like we want to be supreme, we want to be Disney? I know the answer is no, because we've just spent this time talking about how you stay flexible but still have roadmaps. But where would you like it to be in 5 years?
Well, as an NFT guy, I would much rather be Bored Apes than Disney, because to me that's more important. like there's just, I want to be able to pivot. So the possibility of saying in 5 years we'll be here just isn't there, because here, in my opinion, doesn't exist.
Hasn't been built yet. Yeah.
So maybe 5 years is too long, but in, say, a year, I'd want a stronger brand. I really would want more people using .pcc.eth. I'd also love for other collections to be using .whatever.eth. I would love for the gaming element to, have completely taken off and people to be playing the game. We are just trying to go down every road that I think is great. So I do see plenty of things that other NFT projects do that I just think, why would we go down that road? They're going down that road, that's great, that's their focus. But that not only doesn't interest me, but I don't really see how it works or the value that I could add to that. Whereas with branding, we're kind of going down the innovation route. And we do have something that is really cool coming soon, TM. It's not really cool, pump people's bags, Purrnelope's to the moon, but it just, technologically, it is incredibly cool for NFTs, and I can see others running with it as well, just like the subdomains. I'm gonna keep that one in the lock because I've already given away too much.
You've already shared too much, which of course I love, and I'm so grateful to you for sharing lots. Really exciting. I will be tracking Purrnelope's closely. I love everything you've had to say here, and thank you so much for hopping on and being so generous with your time. I think this is definitely the longest podcast I've recorded to date, and it's because you just have so much to share. So thank you.
No, thanks for having me on. Any opportunity to talk about NFTs, I just love it. I can't stop.
True degen.
Yeah.
That's how you retire early, folks. Be this passionate about
do not copy me.
this
if
early.
you copy trade me, you're screwed from now on, I think.
Okay. Well, I still need to pick your brain about this, how I too can take advantage of, I don't know, trying to turn me into a gambling addict, and if I can resist it, I can
Max Mint.
just hop around and make a bunch of money. That's what I took away from what you said. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.